Professor Samuel Edu Jemfi, who is a political historian at the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology. Hello, good evening, sir. Welcome to Eyewitness News. Should we be concerned about such rhetorics from politicians at this time?
We should be, at least the history of Africa should tell us that, and how we have had our own democratic turnovers, and when we have not, as a result of lack of clarity in our speeches, and also when we speak on, based on fever pitch to incite people, and also not speak based on a measured tone as a consequence of what we have heard our opponent talk about or speak. I think that we need to understand that even though from an aesthetic viewpoint, Ghana looks quiet and peaceful and seems to have a quiet and a peaceful people. Remember that statements that are able to incite people can gravitate us towards violence. And we have seen that when a people find a common cause to especially see an enemy in another, they are likely to respond vehemently and harshly. And so it is important for us to appreciate that the NDC and the MPP, as a result of party affiliation, as we have seen in our politics in Ghana, people can be very sentimental, and the extent of attachment to political parties is like twins that are conjoined, or Siamese twins. And because of that, we have to be very careful to watch what we say and how we communicate to party people. And I think that the two gentlemen have not done justly to the cause and the future of our democracy. It is important to have clarity in your statement, and more so where an opponent has even erred, among other things, the tone and the zest with which you respond must be measured in such a way that the choice of your words would rather call for sanity, call for clarity, and call for order, and not seem to have a certain tone that seems to inflame passion. And I will say this, whether we like it or not, this country is ours, and the peace of it would be that which would come about as a result of how we engage each other in more decent and decorous discourses. And we can only achieve that when we respect the voters. Remember, the mandate is with the people. It is the people who deliver the mandate. It is our secret ballot. An universal adult suffrage will go there and cast our vote. And in casting our individual votes, it is going to be the sovereign will of the people that will definitely prevail. It will not be the will of any political party, i.e., anticipating to win or to retain power. It is the will of the people, the mandate of the people that will be delivered to the political parties. And they must respect that, and as a result of that, there should be some civility in the way they communicate and share their thoughts, among other things.
Yeah, so there should be some civility, but that civility may not come on its own. The issue is there appears to be institutions of state, so the Peace Council, NCC, etc., which have or who have some mandate or some job to do. It does appear that the opposition, for example, feels that these institutions are not doing their work the way they ought to do, and so they will want to take matters into their own hands and deal with same. Do you think that the way these institutions have conducted themselves, it may be right or wrong, I don't know, is that enough to elicit the kind of lack of confidence we're seeing from the opposition towards their work?
It seems to me that rather the challenge is not only coming from these institutions you have mentioned, but it seems to me that when the NPP or the NDC find themselves in opposition, they become highly antagonistic and suspicious of the Electoral Commission. And for that matter, the Electoral Commissioner, if he or she is seen to be tainted as a result of political party affiliation and coloration. It is therefore critical that around this time we would have an Electoral Commission and a commissioner that will be seen to be highly independent and willing to play the referee mandate or role that will calm the nerves of the opposition party. I would say, for a better, want of a right word, that they should provide for the NDC in particular and the opposition whatever they demand, that which will, insofar as they are not inconsistent with the constitution and the laws that enjoin them to perform their duty as an independent arbiter of our elections. Because the extent of doubt, the extent of lack of trust that the MPP and or the NDC exhibit toward the Electoral Commission and the Commissioner is overtly suspicious and, if you like, among other things, glaringly disturbing. And so we should begin to have respect for our state institution, like the Electoral Commission and the Commissioner herself. And for that matter, the actors therein must be seen to be acting, for better word of a right word, within the ambit of the law which has set them in place and within their own rights as key stakeholders and actors should be seen to be independent referees and arbiters, and that in itself will contribute to the quiet and the peace we are anticipating. Among other things, yes, we make mention of the NCC when we have some of these discourses over time. The question is that the NCC has a clear role to play, at least fundamentally, to cause the citizenry to come to terms with their own rights and responsibilities as it pertains to the Constitution. And when we come to this time, they also have a responsibility to work and run, if you like, concurrently with the EC to give some kind of public education and to be wholeheartedly involved in ensuring the kind of peace and quiet. And if they are going to be able to achieve that, I think the state should be able to support, sponsor, and to back them up to do that. Again, we look at the Peace Council, as we have talked about. The discussion may lead us back to 2020. Was the NDC itself satisfied with the kind of responses they got from the Peace Council and other agencies of state who are supposed to be independent? The NDC remains suspicious about certain state, if you like, institutions. And for that matter, it leads her to have doubts going into this election. And I think that such institutions, whether state, independent, or private institutions, especially the other research think tanks and groups, must be seen to be doing justly to our democracy to ensure that they are not there as the appendages and the stooges and bootlickers of their athletes, which really formed them and created them.
I see. So speaking about the Peace Council and election 2020 and matters arising, so for example, the NDC chairman, Johnson Asidun-Ketia, is reported to have said that this time they will not bother themselves to enter into any peace accord prior to the 2024 general elections. His reason is because he feels, he and his party feel that such peace agreements, are irrelevant because they have failed to yield tangible outcomes, and so they have been rendered ineffective. They make the case that though they signed this agreement, in the election 2020, people were killed, etc., violence occurred, but the Peace Council was nowhere to be found. What's your thinking around this position as espoused by the NDC General Secretary? The signing of the Peace Pact or the Peace Accord or Agreement as is supervised by the National Peace Council, you think it is irrelevant?
The Peace Council is superintended by priests, apostles, chiefs, other key stakeholders of state who are supposed to be nuanced about our culture, custom, if you like, how we as a people see ourselves, and with a dint of experience are supposed to be able to create a certain balance so that they become the pivot or the fulcrum around which we can seek peace from time to time, or consistently ensure that there is a balancing act to keep the peace going in the country. I would say that sometimes, even at the personal level, I've been a bit disappointed as to how the Peace Council comes out, either to speak on matters of state on matters which pertains to the NDC or the MPP. I think that the men and the women who form this council have a responsibility to have the kind of gravitas, the kind of authority, independently, privately, individually, and collectively, to let the truth to be made known to state actors who play role to serve the cause of the state, to the political parties, to institutions, among other things, to those who have been given mandate to perform a role insofar as ensuring quiet and peaceful elections and free, fair elections. And so I am of the view, my humble opinion is that yes, the Peace Council is peopled by fine gentlemen and women. It is my humble opinion, that they must be seen to be tough, independent, and balanced to create the peace that we have always wanted, asked for, and pursued. I'll tell you this. When people do not have confidence in institutions, the state in itself will be led into disarray. And for institutions to act, institutions per se can create law and order and balance, but the actors within the institutions are those who are mandated by law and by right to ensure that they are able to execute what the law sets them in place to be and to act on. And so when you have actors who are not committed to the cause, who are sometimes seen in a certain light, then we have some of these problems and we are called to the table to have some of these discussions. I want to challenge a body like the Peace Council to sit up, to call the shot, and to call a spade, and let it be known. In fact, in the Christian order or realm, it is their prophetic mandate to make sure that they echo the voices and the desires of the people and the voice of God in that realm.
I see. So the comments, very incendiary in most cases. Who calls the truce, or who will call for the truce? Who will step in and say, enough of this, let's be civil in how we address issues. Let's focus on the issues and let's not inflame passions. Who can step in and say a thing like this in our country today?
In the first instance, I've always talked about this. The fourth estate of the realm has been used as a tool to create some of these tensions. We have seen pockets of tension and sometimes even much more in our political history. It's come about because we allow an NDC chap or MPP chap to sit on a morning show and to blow hot air across and to speak with overt bravado, beating the chest, banging tables, going at each other. There's a lot of responsible, journalism that must be required on our morning shows. There's a lot of responsible journalism that must be seen on our television. Today, the informal media, the social media, for that matter, has also taken over a lot. And because of that, there are questions about disinformation, misinformation, and also the ability to authenticate, to cross-check, to fact-check what is put out there. And it is as a result of that, I respect your particular platform, among others, that are beginning to see that we should have journalists who are trained in law, journalists who are trained in health, journalists who are so that they come to the table with some specificity, not wandering generalities without any meaningful specifics. So when they are reporting and speaking to issues, they understand that. But the ethics of journalism also comes to the play. The Rwandan example will tell us a story. Nobody should have the chance to sit on radio or use the fourth estate of the realm to satisfy their whims and caprice. But what is also equally significant is that the pay masters, the puppet masters within the media realm are politicians. Why do I say that? They own a lot of these media houses. And the policies that govern the editorial policies of these media houses, some of which are absolutely preposterous and whimsical, continue to engage us, in our democratic culture. Stomach-directed analysis, distasteful, useless analysis that beat, and continuously hit our eardrums every morning because they have the financial clout they have the capital to buy the airwaves, to own it, and to use their studios to control it. And when we look at that in the era where military juntas and regimes were in control of the state, and that state media kowtowed, right, to the dictates of the state apparatus, it's similar even in the democratic culture when those who are the wielders and the holders of capital decide to buy the airwaves because they have the political backing of their, institutions to allow them to do so. So that's the major problem. We need to find a way to nip it and to ensure that it does not rear its ugly head as we build our embryonic democracy. On that same note, even on the first estate of the realm, you would agree with me that when a morning show host or any of the hosts of the other political programs seem not to be bought, but they are independent, you seem to also have or hear or see a certain balance, either visually and also through your auditory sense. You are able to appreciate that these people are doing a programming that is educating the people, bringing civility, and building on our democratic culture. Sometimes you call it agenda, right? You sit by a program, you listen to a program, you tune into a program, and you feel that it is one agenda. Having said that, media houses, historically, whether you go to China, the Soviet Union, or other places, could have their own editorial policy and even ideological framing. But the logics of same would not overlook quiet and peace and civility. And that we should not lose it, even in spite of our own challenges.
Very well.
Right?
How about the citizenry? It does appear that the citizenry condones such language from politicians, because if one politician speaks in a very harsh manner, taking on the other side, and the other side does not respond in equal measure, the people feel that the one who is not responding in equal measure is soft and is weak, and that demoralizes its base. So shouldn't the citizenry also take some of the blame? Because if we don't want it, I'm not sure they will continue doing it. If they do it and we punish them for it, they won't continue doing it.
Politics is the easiest way to become rich in this country, as we've seen in our contemporary history. And those who speak with overt bravado, insult and cast allegations, and who act as gentle hooligans on stages, on political platforms, are given their due reward with portfolios, right? And they move about with a certain grandeur. So I tell you, nothing is going to change unless the chief executive officer of Ghana, who will form his team to lead the country after each election, will not reward those who misbehave on platforms and who speak anyhow. And once that is done, we will have some answers. The call is not with the citizens. It's not only with the citizenry. It is with those who give political power to.
Very well. Thank you so much for speaking to us. Professor Samuel Edu Gyamfi is a political historian.